sitting down. Now, I think we've got. I think we said we probably have 8 rounds today. I'm going to be willing to bet that we will have, if we cover different players every time, 14 different archetypes by the end of the day before we even hit the top 8 that we'll watch.
I think that's pretty safe. should we start a tally?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to vote for 14 archetypes. I've got 2 down so far.
What are we going to see twice?
Well, I'm assuming that we might actually have a player show up more than once.
Okay. So you're thinking that this is just going to be like complete,
utter, just abandon, I think is what's going to happen.
I do not think that is the case.
Here we go, right behind you. Want to hand one over?
Oh, I am wrong. Caleb Durward is playing the same deck that Nick Spagnuolo was playing the last round.
Okay, so
yeah.
There we go. One strike against me. I've only got 1 left. So we have an amazing repeat copy of the deck that Nick Spagnuolo was just playing.
Fairly certain those are the only 2 copies in the tournament.
So out of 193 people, it can happen. And Julian Booher playing Goblins. And he's a Goblins deck that is black-red. In the black, for black, 3 Warren Weirdings.
Please report to side events at the Shivan Dragon.
2 Siege King commanders.
3 seats open.
And most of the regular other guys. No singletons to tutor for.
And players in casual draft number 1.
Goblins is another deck I expected to see quite a bit of here.
So Goblins, and then the Welder Painter Servant deck on the other side.
No. Oh, I see. Gotcha.
And Kelly was an awesome beard.
Oh yeah. What did you play with? Well,
I played.
Wish I still had my beard.
Sick. I thought you said did you?
No, yes, my beard.
Sick is over good.
Alchemishra.deck? Didn't get there?
I'm so tired.
Yeah, Julian Booher is
especially when the
doing the whole lackey pile driver plan, and we have Caleb Durward, and he is fighting with Goblin Welders, Painter Servants, and Grindstones.
Now,
his deck is 1 card different than Nick's.
How do you think that this matchup plays out? I mean, in terms of interaction, Julian can incinerate and weirding. I guess he can also Siege King Commander as his major form of interaction, but otherwise, they're going to be really pretty much pushing right past each other. Force of Will to try to slow down on the one side, and I guess those what do we have? 9 creature interactions on the other side.
Now, looking at the
well, game one first.
Okay, looking at game 1, I see little to no way for Julian to beat Caleb's deck. Caleb fishbowls him, and Caleb kills him on turn 2. This match is going to in no way be close, in my opinion.
I guess I don't think that this deck, the Welder deck, can consistently kill on turn 2. It can absolutely kill on turn 2. But
I mean, it's not necessarily consistent, but I was obviously using a little bit of hyperbole there, but it's going to kill him on turn 3. It averages turn 3s. So,
but I mean, at that point, then the Incinerator and the Warren Weirdings are actually significant.
I mean, he has to not tap his mana. I guess, like, he can't really go into a Vial.
He's got Vial,
like
he's got Lackey.
He's got to cast a Ringleader at some point. Like, I don't know. I've played combo against Goblins before, and Goblins does not like combo.
Goblins doesn't like combo where the combo pieces aren't creatures. Like, this is a deck with combo pieces that are explicitly creatures, which means that Goblins can actually directly interact with them. So it's not a pure race. They actually get to have their cards do something. I mean, this isn't combo like High Tide. This isn't combo, I mean, to bring up the possible Spectre in the room. This isn't a combo, you know, like, let's throw out something, what's big in combo right now, like Teps, or not Teps, I shouldn't even say Teps. This isn't the Perfect Storm, you know. This isn't Iggy Pop.
There's no E in there.
Yeah, there's no E in there.
Yeah. It's just TPS. But Caleb has some fun sideboard interactions here.
Absolutely.
He has 4 show and tells and 4 Emrakuls.
Show and tell Emrakul. Oh boy. In our opening, we see probably the optimal opening for Caleb and the second best opening for Julian.
I'll take 2. Take 2.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I mean,
There's the painter. He's got 2 Force Wills, looks like to me. Oh boy.
yeah, that's pretty good. Pyroblast.
Oh
Gotcha.
man.
I
Rep. Those are-
actually might just Pyroblast that land there. Wow, I forgot how good Pyroblast was. 1 mana instant speed Vindicate, hey? That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, Julian's a good player. I've watched him play a match or 2. It's pretty tight. Goblin's a very hard deck to play.
I agree with that.
The people who do well with Goblins are the people who play it very often. People like Owen, people like Jim. Those are the people who do well with Goblins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people think of Goblins as like a mindless beatdown deck, but really they're actually pretty wrong. Goblins is actually a mid-range aggro deck that happens to be just lightning fast. Goblins wins by putting a lot of stuff onto the table. That's how it wins.
Control decks hate playing against Goblins. Goblins can play a long game really, really well. And I think it's actually it's one of the hardest decks to play. Yeah, Painter Servant also does a pretty good job of blocking lackeys.
This is true. So we got a Sensei's Divining Top and a Painter Servant joining the Goblin Welder. God, those Force of Wills just sitting in Caleb's hand. Just, if anything is going to go wrong, it's just there to hop in and take care of the problem.
So, it's pretty funny when you're playing against combo and your lackey can't get in. Alright, I'm untap with my lackey, playing against combo. We've got some deep thought happening here. This might be a reasonable time to ask somebody to watch for slow play.
Is he thinking about what? Matron?
Want to spin the top? Tap top to draw a card.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We've seen 2 painter decks.
You know, and like you said, these are the same list, so it's actually pretty surprising that we happen to get that happen so quickly. Since
I mean,
these
they're
are
also
actually
2 of the biggest names in the room.
That's true. They are 2 of the biggest names. You're right.
Nick may have, Nick's won some stuff, and not only that, but like Nick, in addition to having had some success as of late, Nick is also just very talented, and people know that. People know that Nick is just a really good player, and that Nick's going to play tight. Nick's going to crush people. Caleb's just got to find this grindstone, cast an intuition, and just end the game as opponent's tapped out.
The difference, for those of you who are wondering, between a mid-range aggro deck and an aggro deck, what it essentially does is it has cards that are designed more primarily to specifically deal with life totals. They have cards that are going to be more akin to Lightning Bolt, things like that, whereas as you shift in towards the mid-range spectrum, you start developing the board more. So what this means then for Goblins is a deck that has almost nothing that goes directly to the face, but it explodes onto the board. Basically, the synergies of Goblins are what make it so fast. But you're still talking about a deck that is running a mid-range strategy. It's concerned about keeping the board and having a board advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Goblins is a combo deck. Goblins is not an aggro deck in my mind. I don't view it as anything but a combo deck.
Even with that though, if you look at how Goblins wins, Goblins doesn't necessarily win by comboing out at all. It can just win by beating you down with the cards that are in play. The thing is that those synergies can come together and be so powerful. You get these combo-like effects where it's like, wow, that was a turn 3 kill off of some ridiculous explosion that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. The deck does that. I mean, sometimes you just pile drive people too, you know?
And we get the Incinerator coming out from Goblins.
Caleb's like really talented deck builder. This is a deck that actually Michael Boss guy,
End of turn. Spin the top.
Caleb, and Lewis Laskin put themselves together as a team, and they built this deck. Mike decided to last minute build a blue-white deck.
One tap draw.
He decided that that's what he wanted to be slinging today. And I mean, when you think about it, blue-white just has to be the best chase deck, right?
At the very least, it's going to be a good one. You know, a blue-white deck is probably going to be attempting to hold down the board with lots of disruption for creatures. You know, more likely to have things like swords, more likely to have things, you know, that are actively aggressive against creatures, so that a Jace is more likely to stick around. But I mean, to be fair, all the decks that have Jace, generally speaking, these are Force of Will decks that are really concerned with maintaining heavy control. Now, the exception to this are those decks like this Welder deck, which this version isn't bringing it in, but the one that was played last round by Nicholas Spagnola with a different sideboard brought it in largely to fight other Jaces.
Yeah. And Pyroblast kills Jace pretty nicely. Pyroblast just kills everything.
Particularly in this deck, right?
Yeah. It's just a 1-mana Vindicate. That's also a counterspell.
And we have the combo out.
That'll do.
And Lion's Eye for the...
Yeah, that's kind of how I thought this was going to go.
Right.
I mean, I think game 2 is... I don't understand it. It's just going to be da-na-na-na, wind it up and drop him Rockhold. Like, I don't really see a way out of it.
The Emrakul change is really interesting. Now, one thing to think about, though, is that one of the things that Julian can do is he has access to Cabal Therapy, and I think that Pyrokinesis could be very effective here. You know, essentially being a way to tap out and put something down on the table, and then blow up a Welder and a Painter Servant at the same time, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, he could kill Welder and a Painter at the same time. But I mean, once you've assembled the... I
mean, there was a totally a window right there, you know,
yeah,
where...
He may just switch, though. You know what I mean? He may just switch to the Emrakul plan.
I mean, I think he can...
And again, think against like a red-based deck, that's almost assuredly what he's going to do there. I might be wrong, though.
But for that Emrakul plan, I mean, in order to make that Emrakul plan work, you're doing it off of just show and tell. You know, I don't think that there's anything else he can do to get that guy into play. And as a result, that means that a Cabal Therapy, even if it whiffs and gets a surprise like, oh wow, there's a show and tell in this deck, you know, or oh wow, there's a Miracle in this deck, you can follow it up by sacking some random goblin that you don't want to have around and take out the other end.
That's true. And the Cabal Therapy is a very strong card. But cards like Div Top let you hide things, you know. Cards like Brainstorm let you hide things. I found discard to be underwhelming when I've played Legacy. I'd much rather have like counters and combos. But that's also personal preference. Now,
so in response to some of the chat about strategic archetypes that is going on in the channel, one of the things to remember about the difference between, say, Boros and Goblins is that a Goblins deck, far more than a Boros deck, is a deck that can come from one card into a board full of cards. You can go in a position where you go Matron into Ringleader into other cards, and the closest that a Boros deck can even do to that is doing something like a Squadron Hawk, which is not even in the same league in terms of board development that, generally speaking, the Goblin deck is capable of, particularly when you're talking about the acceleration that's possible with just the War Chief and the ways that interacts with the rest of the deck.
I mean, War Chief is so exciting.
Right.
You just can chain into these like turns where you're casting multiple ringleaders or doing something like that.
Yeah, just in terms of how the deck plays out, you're really just talking about a deck that plays out in a very mid-range style, but it just does it incredibly quickly because of the natures of the interactions of the cards. I mean, your aggro, there's that realm of archetypes that go from, controlling and then on one arc down towards aggro, but in the middle is a whole range of kinds of mid-range strategies. And the more you get towards the aggro end, just you slowly shift in how the deck works. It's not like there's Camp A and Camp B. There's gradations between them.
So if you'd like to play in that draft, come up and register at the stage. Again, that will be starting
I'm wondering
at
how
1
much.
o'clock.
Do you think that Affinity has fallen out of favor? It probably has by now. I think creatures nowadays are just so good that it's funny. I've been thinking about it more and more, and I feel like a turn 1 Mirror Enforcer that used to be so good, and now it's just the amount you have to work for that, the cards you have to play to get there, it doesn't really seem like it's that great.
I really am not sure, but I do know that one of the things that I'd love to see is, when you have Mox, the new Mox, as a card you can add into Affinity, that seems pretty awesome. It's not too difficult to go turn 1 Ravager, Frogmite.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem terrible.
That doesn't seem bad at all.
And there's probably going to be,
I mean, you can't just do it with the land, though.
Yeah, well, you're going to need to have a 0 in there besides your Mox, but that's not difficult.
It's not difficult at all.
I mean, between the Mirror and, between Memnite and between... I think Ornithopter is still potentially good for there.
I think Ornithopter is better than Memnite.
Yeah, I think you probably play both, right?
Maybe. Do you play Memnite?
Sure.
I have not played Legacy Affinity.
One.
I have not played it, so it might not be appropriate, but I've just...
Berserk.
You get to play Berserk?
Standard
Berserk is a good one.
Berserk's such a good card.
God, Berserk's a good card. Green Terror, or just green kill you.
I just want to play like Hatred or something like that.
Yeah, green Terror or Green Hatred. And we get the best possible opening from Julian, which is the turn 1 Lackey.
One Lackey on the play, it's pretty exciting.
Versus a turn 1 Grindstone, and that's a Mox Opal.
Which is active already.
Yeah.
Da-na-na-na.
Mox Opal has to be just insane in affinity.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, there are just enough powerful cards that exist for affinity. It would strike me as strange that it isn't possible as a competitive deck.
He drew the one of Scrapper. How scrappy of him. You know, every time he plays an ally. Every time.
That's pretty sick, Scrapper.
It's about as,
Just trying to be
about as
nice.
free as Scrapper gets.
Top. Best turn.
Okay, we got a top. So
good one.
2 lackeys coming in without anything that's likely to be able to stop them. So expect an explosion onto the board, because that's what Goblins does. Alright.
War Marshal. That is probably the least exciting thing you'd have to put in your life.
that was not an explosion. I'm guessing his hand is full of answers.
I think his hand is full of lands.
I suppose this is only turn 3.
I don't know. Like, I'm just confused.
Like the best card he could have here probably is Cabal Therapy, right? Therapy, name something scary, and then see what is there, and therapy again.
Does he have a therapy?
Well, I'm saying the best card he could have. That's my statement.
Yeah, I mean, therapy would be very good. That actually make the War Marshal pretty good.
Okay, and there it is, the therapy. And he doesn't necessarily know that there's a show and tell to be had, so probably what he's going to be naming here is, well, I was going to say, a combo piece. So he saw Painter Servant there, right? And there's a show and tell. Now that's a scary card.
Yeah.
Don't, do you,
What do you think about when you see a show and tell here?
I mean,
Do you
my
just
question, I would think to myself, do I hit the intuition and get rid of the target, or do I hit the threat of show and tell? And for me, I'd get rid of that show and tell. Like, the intuition takes some time to set up. The show and tell could make something scary happen immediately with the wrong card draw from his opponent.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So what should he take?
Good.
He took the intuition, right?
Looks like the intuition was what was taken.
Okay.
So now, if an Emrakul shows up, that would be pretty
Lights.
devastating. Not necessarily lights, just probably lights.
I mean,
Because remember,
Show
with the
some
show and tell,
Emrakul.
you don't actually get the time walk on it.
yeah, I mean,
So he can
And
swing
elves
into
could,
you, you know, like,
yeah, do some serious damage. Okay. Turn pass back. Julian has to say. Julian gets for 6 and puts Kettle down at 8.
Must be 8.
And Rockwell is slowly dwindling in power level.
and that's a
Julian
go.
has no action.
And I think he has no spells in hand. As I love those sneaky island or blue mana symbol sleeves for his goblin deck. Hoping to get a free moment from a unsuspecting opponent that
Yeah,
reads
I
too
mean,
much into sleeves.
That lackey in a blue sleeve is just so much better, you know? It's the best.
So I'm trying to tell what Yo MTV Raps groups we have there, but I can't quite make it out.
For a standard winner box. If you still got your standard deck
So-
from yesterday put together, just $15 will get you into this.
I'm excited to see like what other decks we're going to see, because now we've kind of just seen two exciting new decks, but now we're sitting here with Jerry Thompson. I'm not sure what he is, what he's playing
How are you doing, Jerry?
today.
Chilling during my buys.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. You are an invitational champ, so you've got 2 buys. Is that correct?
Well, that wasn't because of the invitation.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. That was a little added bonus. Is this still game 1? Oh no,
Game
Caleb's up
2.
a game.
Game 2. And I believe I saw an intuition on that Tensei's Divining Top, which means he's a turn away from being able to show until an Emrakul, which I think is a turn too slow at this point.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, I believe they're saying before that this is like Goblins and Zoo are the really bad matchups.
Really?
Yeah. They just have so much removal for the Painter Servant.
I mean, but don't you just drop an Emrakul and play? I mean, game 1, like, Goblins doesn't interact with you at all. They just, like, tap out and just kill them.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's true. I think that they do interact with you game 1. They have 3 Warren Rootings, they've got 4 Incinerators, they've got 4 Matrons to get the Incinerators, and they've got Siege Gang Commanders that can be dropped down into play by a Lackey.
Well, they don't interact with you when they're tapped out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which they do.
If they're tapped
You
out,
know?
sure. But, I mean, all it takes is a Vial or a Lackey to keep from tapping out. Intuition for anything in the board to help him? All he can do is get Emrakuls and show his hand. I don't know if he wants to show off that he has that as a possibility. This game looks like... I suppose he goes for the combo and hopes he draws something?
Yeah.
What can he possibly draw? He has a show and tell in hand.
And nothing else.
Like, is there a top in play that I'm missing?
I think he flipped it to Intuition.
Yeah, I think you're
Can
right.
he brainstorm into Lion's Eye and Grindstone? That's probably his make.
That is it, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an out, right?
Yeah, that's about it, though, but...
And that is not it. Okay.
I like this deck, though. Caleb's deck.
There, he's pretty good.
It looks really sweet. I'm a little sad that Lewis audibled out of it. Like a little pansy.
Lewis playing the deck. Why is he playing that deck?
Like Mangaras.
Is he actually playing Mangara?
Mangara's awesome with and what's that guard's name? The
Caracas.
Elixir. The Elixir as well. I think you can. Yeah, 1,000-year Elixir.
Well, an EDH, it's awesome. Like, an EDH, it's just insane. But, like... And nobody wants to play against that. But, I mean... Mengar of Karandor does not seem like what I want to be doing when I'm given... When they give me, like... 99.9% of all Magic cards ever printed, and are like, go nuts. I'm not like, Mengar of Karandor! Oh, man!
One more seat.
But I mean, some people love Death and Taxes, and it is a fun deck, but that's not what I want to do. I have that many cards to play with.
I find your lack of vision disturbing.
And that's not a lack of vision. I play rogue decks like it's my job. Like, I'm constantly brewing, and you know that.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
But
Just giving you some help.
I'm just saying, as far as like you have to play powerful cards in a format like this. You really just have to play powerful spells. And if you're playing a deck like that, you're playing a lot of spells that aren't powerful. Playing a lot of spells that didn't make it into decks when in block.
Well, I mean,
you're
to be
not-
fair, I'm gonna
you're not
contest,
abusing them to
I'm
some-
gonna contest that one just a smidge though, because like sometimes a card or a deck is not good enough in block because it doesn't have the support team, right? So when you suddenly give it that support, it can emerge as a deck that's actually potent.
But creating a combo to do like a Vindicate every other turn.
If you're forgetting the 1,000-year Elixir.
Okay. So creating a 3-card combo that involves 2 sorcery speed 3-cost things that does not win the game in Legacy seems a little off to me.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just trying to devil's advocate here. Okay, so now we're waiting for our third and final game between Julian and Caleb to wrap up. Julian has shown what he's got hiding in the background with a Cabal therapy. And the thing I would be thinking about if I saw a Tuk-Tuk Scrapper, I would be kind of wondering if there were more Tuk-Tuk Scrappers lying around, because just the implication of Tuk-Tuk Scrappers seems to say there might be more. You know, there aren't any, and that's fine, but...
He happened to have it in that spot
Yeah,
right there.
he didn't search
could
for
make
it.
Caleb play differently.
Yeah, he didn't search for it. Like, it just was in his hand naturally. A nice one of, but his opponent... I would be thinking, man, how many Tuk-Tuk Scrappers does this guy have, and why does he have so many?
Well, that last hand it needed was a pile driver, right? Good. That was pretty good.
Okay, so
I mean,
who's on the play here with this one? We just had Julian win, so Caleb's on the
Caleb's
play.
on the play.
This puts a lot of energy behind Caleb then. This is definitely a on the play plus 10% kind of game situation.
yeah, I completely agree.
I mean, they both have turn one plays that are setting up for something very powerful. One, it's Goblin Welder and Grindstone. And on the other side, it's Goblin Lackey and Aether Vial.
I mean, what may be most important to Julian, or to both players, is the Lackey. And Caleb being on the play means Caleb can play a turn 2 Painter Servant and block a Lackey. You know, Caleb isn't just in a really, really bad spot if the turn 1 Lackey hits. Because last game, he attacked with a turn 1 Lackey and just got to drop that Scrapper into play.
Fine with Lyle, right?
And that just completely changed the game. That was the game.
Yep. And the Scrapper.
Still not perfect.
Oh, man. Like,
And you just dropped the turn.
yeah, I would just feel like somebody kicked me in the teeth if a Scrapper hit me on turn 2. Now, one of the questions I kind of have is, if you have a Scrapper and you have a green-based build of goblins for Crossing Grip, is Scrapper actually better than 10th Street? I think he might be, because one of the problems with 10th Street is if you have out a War Chief, you can't kick the Scrapper, or, you know, to kill an artifact. Or not kick, whatever, alternate kick, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like the intrinsic kick. I don't know though. 10 Straight Hooligan does cost 2. It's a pretty nice bonus.
Yeah. Okay, we have
But
the
again, you
opening.
can't really lackey it in and kill artifacts either.
Opening of Sensei's Divining Top. One of the,
Off an Ancient Tomb.
yeah.
So he gets to spin that top right away.
And Julian's mulligan hand, we'll have to see what he has come to stick with.
Still topping backward. Okay. Time's up.
And we get the best, I think, the best opening line for Julian. Assuming he has anything of value in his hand, the Lackey is just an Aether Vial that attacks and goes much faster.
It can be at whatever number you want it to be at.
Yeah, you know, I think this turn my Vial will be 5. And take 1, please. Thank you.
I'd rather my Vial go back to 3 this
Yeah,
turn.
3 seems better now.
That seems better now.
Now, with that Ancient Tomb, it's actually possible for a win to happen right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take a Lotus, a fake Lotus.
Alright, there's a win.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Draft open players, pairings for round number 3,
This is exciting.
and standings without
Turn 2,
tiebreakers.
Now remember,
Now posted.
Pyrokinesis could be in the mix here.
Once again, draft open players,
That's true.
pairings for round number 3,
Talking to me at all.
And standings after round number 2,
Yes.
without tiebreakers, are now
We're just going to watch Caleb win on
Here,
turn 2
grab
here.
the chair, pull it on over.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we'll switch you and my seats.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so it wasn't quite the win.
Okay, so he did not have the Lion's Eye Diamond to finish it off. And now he is in that kind of awkward position where there's some stuff that can go wrong when you've got those cards on the table. Oh, but not this time. Okay, I see a ringleader in Julian's hand.
And is Caleb at 15, I believe?
We beat Dredge game 1. That was Horse your Peter, I'm quite. Oh, you were going to play spells? How you doing?
Players in standard Little Box number 1.
Game 3.
I like watching these decks.
Yeah, I do as well.
It's like my favorite kind of thing.
Number 1 as filled.
Just get 2 zombies. Go.
This intuition is just a monster.
Kill your graveyard.
Yeah.
And I should have had him game 2.
You can take your time.
So he,
Goes all in on a breakthrough. With nothing. No
There's
dredges.
just no way.
And then naturally draws 2 Assembly Coliseums off the top and forgets to ability to turns and draws the second one.
Giving us the seat.
I actually don't like that play. I think he should have given his opponent the Grindstone. So, like, that way there will be a Lion's Eye Diamond and a Grindstone in the yard. So he'll have to spend 1 extra mana.
Yeah.
So Pyrokinesis is all
We're
that can
good.
save him here. Only Pyrokinesis, or it's all over.
I mean, does he still have Pyrokinesis in his deck after he saw Show and Tell and Rockwool in game 2?
I mean, I think you still just want to consider keeping it. There we go. That's all.
Nice.
Okay, and so we have the win here by the Painter Servant deck with Goblin Welders over Goblins from Julian Booher. In the booth, we have the champion from yesterday's events.
Yes.
Patrick, would you like to come on in?